Yo, put your seats up, eat some popcorn, something. What we about to react to is about to get real. Not gonna lie. Shit is about to get heavy. It's about to get heavy. W crime time. W crime time. W crime time. But this is really a W. Because what I'm about to say is nasty. Okay? The brothers who forced 5 friends to hard R each other before killing them. Lock in, please. Lock in, please. Because this is about to be the most locked in I've ever am about to be reacting to a video.
On a cold December evening in 2000, what should have been an ordinary night of friends gathering in Wichita, Kansas, turned into a gruesome nightmare. It was a crime spree that would shake the city to its core. It was a story of senseless brutality, survival, and an unrelenting pursuit of justice. 2 brothers, Reginald and
Of course they black. Oh, fucking course. Of course, bro. I thought, I'm not gonna lie. Shout out to my white niggas. I thought only white niggas do stupid shit like this, bro. Niggas done prove me wrong. 2 black niggas.
Jonathan Carr, raised in a life of neglect, abuse, and crime, would go on to commit some of the most heinous acts in Wichita's history. They would force a group of innocent friends to endure unimaginable horrors before executing them in the snow. Only one would live to tell the tale. Then, in a second case, we have Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, another pair of incredibly evil brothers who were
What are we watching?
Responsible for the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, which killed 3 people and injured hundreds. Keep watching to find out how these 2 pairs of killer brothers came to become the despicable monsters that would one day destroy lives.
Oh, shit.
Reginald and Jonathan Carr grew up in Dodge City, Kansas, in an environment that was filled with violence and instability.
Dodge City, Kansas,
Their
remind me to
mother,
never go
Janice
there.
Harding, was strict and emotionally distant. She
Dodge City, Kansas, remind me to never go there. Remind me to never go there. Ever.
was not the kind of mom who could provide them with love or stability, so they grew up without these things.
I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that.
Father was absent, and their stepfather was abusive.
I don't want to hear that.
At one point, he even held a gun to their mother's head to threaten her. It was the kind of traumatizing childhood that nobody deserves. The brothers grew up witnessing constant domestic violence, suffered from physical abuse, and were forced to fend for themselves, even when it came to finding food to eat. Reginald became a troublemaker and dropped out of school. It was then that he went from committing petty crimes to violent offenses. Jonathan, while he wasn't as outwardly aggressive as his brother, still suffered from deep emotional trauma. This caused him severe depression and other mental health issues. When he was just 16 years old, he attempted to take his own life by drinking antifreeze, but did not end up being successful. By the time they reached adulthood, the brothers were completely immersed in a life of crime. Reginald had already served time in prison, and Jonathan, though not as much of a hardcore criminal as his brother, was being more and more affected by Reginald's influence. Their early lives were a tragic taste of the monsters they would one day become, and the horrors they would unleash upon the city of Wichita.
Remind me to never go to Wichita.
It was on December 8th, 2000 when the Carr brothers would go on a
nigga smiling? Oh, shit. Wow. So that's... Okay.
rampage. Unlike anything Wichita had ever seen, it would destroy lives, break apart families, and would change the city forever. They began by targeting a man named Andrew Schreiber. He was a 23-year-old assistant baseball coach who had stopped at a convenience store and was simply minding his own business. Armed and aggressive, the brothers forced him at gunpoint to get into his own vehicle and made him drive to several ATMs to withdraw a total of $800. Throughout the terrifying ordeal, Schreiber did everything the brothers asked, just hoping it would save his life. Before eventually abandoning him in an isolated area, the Carr brothers shot out his car tires to prevent him from trying to go get help. Miraculously, Schreiber survived the ordeal, was able to contact the cops, and provided a description of the men who attacked him. But at that point, the cops thought this was just an isolated incident, a couple of petty thieves who were just trying to make a couple bucks through a robbery. They had no way of knowing the horror that was yet to come.
But here's the thing. So they didn't see them like on the surveillance? Oh no, because they forced him to do that. Ah, okay, never mind. I thought they went and followed him. Okay, no, that makes sense. And there's no cameras back then, probably.
2000? On December 11th, the brothers struck again. This time they targeted a woman named Ann Walenta. She was a 55-year-old cellist with the Wichita Symphony Orchestra.
Okay, so they're targeting white people.
night after returning from a rehearsal. Anne parked in front of her upscale suburban home just like she always did. As she gathered her belongings, she noticed a man approaching her vehicle, claiming to need help. She sensed that danger was coming and got back in her car and attempted to drive away. Tragically, it was too late. Reginald Carr pulled out a gun and fired multiple shots into the driver's side window.
The fuck
the
she do that
glass
for?
shattered and bullets struck
What he
Anne
do that
multiple
for?
times as she collapsed in excruciating pain.
Why he do that?
Despite everything, Anne showed amazing strength. Somehow she managed to lean on her car horn, creating a loud, persistent noise that caught the attention of a neighbor. First responders rushed to the scene, and Anne, though she was critically wounded, was able to give the cops a brief description of her attacker. For a moment, it seemed she might survive. Tragically, though, on December 13th, she succumbed to her injuries.
Damn.
The news of her death shocked the community, and the city of Wichita mourned the loss of a beloved musician.
Ann Walenta, a local cellist, was injured in a separate attack and died later at the hospital.
But still, Wichita was unaware that this was just the beginning. December 14th of 2000 would be the night of an unimaginable tragedy that would become known as the Birchwood Massacre. That evening, 5 close friends gathered at a triplex on Birchwood Drive in Wichita. Their names were Jason Befort, Brad Haka, Aaron Sander, Heather Muller, and another woman who was identified only as Holly G. She was Jason's girlfriend. The evening was peaceful. They had dinner, watched television, and enjoyed each other's company. A completely unspeakable danger was lurking nearby. But right outside, both Reginald and Jonathan Carr were scouting for their next victims and planning an attack.
So these niggas just got a thrill out of this? Like, these niggas was just hyped to just catch niggas and just do the most heinous shit? What the fuck? Like, what's the, like, y'all didn't try to rob these niggas, nothing? Y'all was just doing dumb shit?
11 p.m. as Jason and Holly settled into bed, they heard muffled voices. They figured it was just their friends talking, so they ignored it. But suddenly, the front door was violently kicked open. In an instant, their world shattered. 2 masked men stormed into the house, waving guns and barking orders. The friends were yanked from their rooms and forced into one room at gunpoint. That was when what would become hours of torture and terror officially began. The Carr brothers demanded cash, jewelry, and ATM cards. They split up, with one brother taking Aaron and Brad to withdraw money from ATMs while the other remained behind to guard the hostages. When the first group returned, the violence escalated to unspeakable levels. The Carrs forced their victims to take their clothes off and violate each other. All the while they watched, laughing. They subjected the women to brutal sexual assault, alternating between psychological torment and physical violence. The cruelty seemed endless.
Wait,
finally,
did they do it too?
The Carrs forced their victims to take their clothes off and violate each other. All the while they watched, laughing. They subjected the women to brutal sexual assault, alternating between psychological torment and physical violence. The cruelty seemed endless. Finally, after hours of terror, the brothers made their final move. The 5 friends were all forced into 2 vehicles and driven to an empty soccer field on the outskirts of Wichita. It was freezing cold with snow covering the ground. The captives were ordered to kneel in a line. HG whispered to Heather, "They're going to shoot us." But there was nothing that could be done, and no one to save them. One by one, the Carrs shot them execution style in the head, their bodies falling into—
Wait. 3 niggas? 2 guys? I know they got guns. So, like, how, what the fuck?
to the snow, but they weren't done yet.
They didn't
the
try
Carr brothers
nothing.
wanted to be extra sure they were dead, so they drove over their bodies with a truck before leaving them behind in the snow. But what the brothers didn't realize was that one of their victims, Holly, had survived. The only reason that Holly managed to survive was because the bullet had hit her hair clip, deflecting the shot.
Wow.
Though seriously injured, she lay still, pretending to be dead until she was sure the Carr brothers had left.
Wow.
She gathered every ounce of strength and crawled for miles through the freezing snow toward the distant limits of the farmhouse.
No, W. Wow, W. No. She got them niggas booked, because if it wasn't for her, God was on her side, bro. And not saying God was on their side, but God was on her side for sure, because yeah, she had to get them dumb niggas had to get out the streets, bro. No bat.
When she finally reached the door, she pounded on it until the homeowners let her in. Holly, still covered in blood and gasping for air, told them everything that she had just endured. Her incredible bravery would bring the Carr brothers to justice. Holly's testimony led the cops to the gory crime scene, where they discovered the bodies of her friends. The crime shocked even the most experienced investigators. Within days, both Reginald and Jonathan Carr were arrested. The trial was a national spectacle. Prosecutors charged the brothers with 113 counts, including capital murder, rape, kidnapping, and robbery. The defense argued for leniency because of their troubled upbringing. Ultimately,
Fuck
though,
outta here.
the jury was unmoved and convicted them, and the brothers would be sentenced to death. But shockingly, the story doesn't end there. In July 2014, the Kansas Supreme Court overturned the Carr brothers' death sentences. The family members of the victims were extremely upset and released a public statement.
Wow.
First of all, I'd like to say that extreme disappointment and disgust.
He wanted them niggas to die. Yo, he want them niggas to die. I ain't gonna lie, I wouldn't even blame you, gang. Yo, gang, I can't even get mad at you for wanting these niggas to get up out of here, bro. No funny shit, bro. No God. I ain't gonna lie, my nigga. I can't blame you, twin.
Amongst our family and the
I
rest
can't
of the
blame you,
families,
twin.
by the action of the Kansas Supreme Court.
Niggas want them, yo, he want them to get
we're all aware
gone.
that there's plenty of corrupt and misguided activities that occur with our elected officials.
They're about to
It's
get
very
life.
disheartening that even our Supreme Court in the state of Kansas have allowed themselves to be politically driven by their own motivations to control their decisions to uphold the law. The Supreme Court should not be our fail-safe to ensure that these laws are upheld. Their job is not to create or change laws. Their attempts to do so have resulted in the Supreme Court of the United States overruling multiple times. We should not allow for this above and beyond, above the law mentality to go unchecked by the people of Kansas.
Meanwhile, people across the nation tuned in to see the Carr brothers arrive in the courtroom for the first time in many years.
Reginald and Jonathan Carr will be in court next week. The Carr brothers were sentenced to death after being convicted of capital murder and for killing 5 people and injuring another in 2000. Both of them have filed motions asking for a new sentencing hearing. Those arguments are set to begin Monday morning at 10 o'clock.
But unfortunately for the brothers, the judge would end up denying the request for
Yeah,
a
gave
new
him life.
sentencing
He
hearing.
gave him his life.
Jonathan Carr, the younger of the two brothers, did appear in court today. His brother Reginald waived his right to be here. Today, separate lawyers for the brothers argued that back in 2002, the judge did not properly read the sentence for one of the capital murder courts in court. District Attorney Mark Bennett argued the judge was clear when the sentencing happened. Chief Judge Jeffrey Gehring said he doesn't have the jurisdiction to resentence, and he denied the motion for a new sentencing hearing.
It was the United States Supreme Court that overruled the state of Kansas's decision, ordering the Carr brothers to be resentenced to death.
Bennett said the judge's ruling is in line with what the Supreme Court has said in this case.
There's no lack of clarity in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court says we find him guilty and we affirm his sentence as for death on count of 2. So his point is, if the Supreme Court understood it, and they're not asking me to resentence it, what authority do I have to resentence? And he found he had none.
The lawyers for both men said they plan to appeal because both were sentenced to death. This case is required to go through an extensive legal process, including multiple different kinds of appeals.
For now, at least, the Carr brothers remain on death row.
Oh, GG's. Oh, they're done. Oh, they're done then. Oh, they're fried.
On April 15th, 2013, thousands of spectators lined the streets of Boston, cheering on runners as they crossed the finish line of the 117th Boston Marathon.
Why do a lot of shit bad happen in Boston, bro?
But in a matter of seconds, the joyous celebration turned into chaos. 2 powerful explosions erupted near the finish line, sending shrapnel flying and causing devastation unlike anything the city had ever seen.
Shit. Fuck is the point of that? Were these niggas Arab?
The bombs, crudely constructed from pressure cookers, ball bearings, and nails, were designed to inflict maximum damage. 3 innocent people lost their lives, including an 8-year-old boy, and over 280 others were injured. Many of them were left with life-altering wounds, including the loss of arms and legs. As smoke filled the air and sirens blared, law enforcement raced against time to find the perpetrators. The entire country held its breath, desperate for answers. What followed was one of the most intense manhunts in U.S. history. There were 2 people responsible responsible, Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. But first to
Oh
understand
yeah, these things gotta be Arab. Yeah, GG's. They have to, unless I'm wrong.
and how two brothers could become filled with so much hatred that they decided to plan an attack that would change hundreds of lives forever, we have to start at the beginning. The Tsarnaev brothers were born in Russia to a family of
Russian.
Chechen descent
But you can still
and
be...
spent their childhoods moving from Kyrgyzstan to Russia before finally seeking asylum in the United States. Their early lives seemed pretty normal. Dzhokhar was a well-liked college student with a talent for wrestling, while Tamerlan had once pursued a career in boxing. But beneath the surface, a dangerous transformation was taking place. Tamerlan, the older brother, had grown extremely radical over the years. He abandoned his Olympic boxing dreams, turned to extreme religious beliefs, and began showing signs of deep resentment toward the United States, the same country that had given him refuge. In 2011, authorities from one country warned the FBI that he might be involved in extremist activities, but the investigation was closed due to a lack of evidence. Dzhokhar, on the other hand, was an all-American teenager. He was charismatic, popular, and seemingly normal, but he was also deeply influenced by his older brother, and when Tamerlan decided to act on his violent ideology, Dzhokhar followed without hesitation.
The fuck?
On the day of the marathon, the Tsarnaev brothers walked through the cheering crowds, each carrying a backpack loaded with explosives. Surveillance footage later revealed the chilling moment when they placed their bombs and calmly walked away. Dzhokhar was wearing a white cap and standing near a group of children, and Tamerlan was near the finish line.
There were no known threats of an attack that day, and nothing seemed suspicious about the two men wearing backpacks who made their way through the crowd.
Then, at 2:49 p.m., the first bomb exploded.
What the hell was that?
Heads turned at the sound of the first blast, about 200 yards away.
Oh my God! Something blew up! Something blew up! Oh my God, something happened!
Then just 12 seconds later came the second one.
We
Another one?
are watching this come in as you are, and this has occurred just in the last half hour or so. There'll be a lot more that we know here shortly. We have our correspondents on the telephone talking with various people. We spoke to some people at our affiliate station WBZ who told us that there were at least 2 explosions.
Shocked and horrified, people all around the nation watched the live footage of the scene, trying to make sense of what was going on. They didn't know if this was some horrific accident or if the country was under attack.
Scott, I think we have to be very careful here at the outset to tell people that we don't have a very complete picture at all of what's going on in Boston. The information is very, very preliminary, and right now the federal government is just getting ramped up in the sense of getting all of its command centers and control rooms together to try to figure out what this is. The preliminary cut of information, and I emphasize capital P preliminary, there are about a dozen people hurt. That's the first word back to the federal government. About a dozen people hurt. No confirmed fatalities right now. So far, and we don't know whether this was an accident, a natural gas explosion, or something more sinister. There have been no claims of any kind of responsibility. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but as a starting point.
The aftermath was sheer devastation. Limbs were torn from bodies, blood covered the sidewalks, and screams filled the air. In the chaos, the brothers blended into the panicked crowd and disappeared.
What struck you about it?
Just the magnitude of it. It wasn't something small. It wasn't something insignificant.
Within minutes, more than 1,000 police and federal law enforcement agents would embark on the largest investigation and manhunt of its kind in the United States.
For days, law enforcement scoured through thousands of surveillance images and videos. Finally, there was a breakthrough. There was footage captured of the two brothers calmly walking away from the blast site. Their images were released to the public, and suddenly, all of Boston was on edge. The Tsarnaevs knew their time was running out. They needed more weapons, so they ambushed and executed an MIT police officer named...
Hold on. This shit just took a fucking shift. So they did all of that, and then on top of that, these niggas bodied a fucking... Okay.
Sean Collier in a failed attempt to steal his gun. Then, they carjacked a man, even confessing their crimes to him before he made a daring escape and alerted the cops. Using the vehicle's GPS, authorities tracked them down in Watertown, Massachusetts. What followed was an all-out war in the streets. The cops exchanged gunfire with the brothers, who hurled homemade explosives at officers.
They have explosives!
What?
Some type of grenades! They're in between houses down here. Shot right!
Tamerlan was eventually tackled to the ground, but in a shocking turn of events, Dzhokhar, trying to escape, ran him over with their stolen SUV, dragging his body under the wheels before speeding away. Tamerlan was dead, but Dzhokhar, now gravely injured after being shot by the cops, wasn't finished yet.
Wait, what? Did he kill his brother? Wait, hold on.
Dragging his body to the ground, but in a shocking turn of events, Dzhokhar, trying to escape, ran him over with their stolen SUV, dragging his body under the wheels.
They probably talked about it. They probably was like, yo, if we ever get caught, or if one of us ever get caught, just, you feel me? Well, shit, they probably thought of, this was probably planned.
Before speeding away.
No way he did that for no reason.
Dead, but Dzhokhar, now gravely injured after being shot by the cops, wasn't finished yet. With the city under lockdown, thousands of officers swarmed the streets. For hours, there was no sign of Dzhokhar, but then a Watertown resident noticed blood on his backyard boat. He was obviously aware of the manhunt that was going on and wondered if this could possibly be connected. Immediately, he called the cops, who did believe that Dzhokhar was likely hiding inside the boat. Authorities moved in, using thermal imaging to confirm that the fugitive was really there. Flashbangs were thrown, commands were shouted, and finally at 8:42 p.m. Dzhokhar surrendered. Wounded and bleeding, he was taken into custody.
You see them right here. These are images never seen before of the capture of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev from that boat that was in the backyard of that house in Watertown, Massachusetts on April 19th, a night none of us will really ever forget. These are some pictures, again, never seen before of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's capture. Sergeant Murphy said that he wanted people to see this as the face of terrorism and not that Rolling Stone cover. A couple of quotes from him that he felt that this was insulting. Quote, "I hope that people who see these images will know that this was real. It was as real as it gets." And he believes this is the better image of terrorism than that Rolling Stone cover.
This is the infamous Rolling Stone magazine cover featuring the Boston Marathon bomber that shocked the world and insulted many. Family members of the victims found the cover distasteful and as if it was glorifying a murderer. It was a very different image of the killer than the ones taken at the scene when he was first captured.
Wolf, again, let's look at these pictures again. You see, in this one in particular, the laser scope paint of basically the targeting of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev on his head. They've got the laser scope from their rifles on his head as he emerges from that boat. Very, very dramatic. You see him pulling his shirt up when they asked him to, they asked him to do that to make sure he had no weapons on him. So he does that with the laser scopes on his head. There's a picture of him climbing out of the boat. You see him swinging his leg over the boat right there. There is another picture of him with a laser scope on it.
The nightmare that had terrified all of Boston was finally over, but still justice would need to be served. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev faced 30 federal charges, including the use of a weapon of mass destruction. His trial was one that was followed by people all around the world. All of the nation tuned in when the verdict was eventually reached.
We're coming on the air briefly right.
This is an all-American kid, by the way. The nigga was popular, all type of shit. The nigga probably had hoes, all type of shit, bro. The nigga followed his older brother, bro. Did that dumb shit drill with his older brother in Boston. They made history. Bad history, obviously. Killed the EMT worker. Hijacked the car. Get into a shootout with the cops. His older brother get caught. He runs over his older brother. The nigga ran over his older brother and killed him. The fuck? The nigga ran over his older brother, killed his older brother, got low, hit in a boat, and got arrested. Now, I want to know, was it worth it, gang? Was it worth it? He was better off dying, too.
Right now, because the jury has reached a verdict in the trial of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the young man who, along with his brother Tamerlan, terrorized the city of Boston by setting off dual bombs at Boston's Marathon, a historic event, on April 15th, 2013. 3 people were killed, 260 injured.
Damn.
The jury has now found
260?
Tsarnaev guilty on the first of 30 counts on which he is facing.
Oh, he's done.
That count is using a weapon of mass destruction,
Oh, he's
resulting in death. This is a charge that carries the potential of a death penalty.
Many of the family members of the victims and those who survived the horrific ordeal wanted to see Dzhokhar receive the maximum possible punishment for this despicable act that transformed the lives of so many people forever. In 2015, they got their wish.
The jury deciding the fate of Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev has reached a verdict. They have sentenced him to death.
Jace.
7 men and 5 women reached this decision after about 14 hours of deliberations and after finding Tsarnaev guilty of all 30 charges against him.
Though his sentence was briefly overturned in 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court later reinstated it. Today, he sits on death row at a supermax prison in Florence, Colorado, awaiting execution. 2 pairs of brothers, 2 ruthless crime sprees, and countless lives forever changed. The Carr brothers left a trail of devastation in Wichita, unleashing unimaginable terror on their innocent victims before justice finally caught up with them. Meanwhile, the Tsarnaev brothers transformed a day of triumph in Boston into a scene of horror, shattering lives in an instant. Both cases are haunting reminders of how ordinary people can find themselves face to face with unthinkable evil. These cases leave us with some difficult questions. What drives people to commit such heinous acts? Could anything have stopped them before they reached the point of no return? And perhaps most chillingly, are there others out there right now, walking among us, harboring the same darkness? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe justice was served in these cases? And how do you think society can prevent tragedies like these in the future? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Bro, what did we just watch? Nah, gang. That is some devious shit we just seen, bro. No cap, bro. Let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe.